Now, Shepherd Bushiri and his wife Mary are back at the Specialised Commercial Crimes Court in Pretoria today. Bushiri and his wife are in custody over a 102 million rand fraud and money laundering case. The two have been behind bars since Wednesday after making an appearance at the Pretoria Central Magistrate Court. The court heard that the state wanted the bail application postponed, but Bushiri's legal team opposed it. Advocate Annelien van der Heever, on behalf of the accused, told the court that they were ready to proceed and said the state was not entitled to have the matter postponed. For more on the story, I'm now joined by Archbishop Dr Patrick Shole, who is president of the SA Union Council of Independent Churches, as well as Bishop Selven Govender, who is president of the South African Religious Forum. Very good to have you with us this afternoon, gentlemen, and thank you so much for your time. Let's start with you, Archbishop Shole. Now, you have a previous relationship with Prophet Bushiri. If you could give us an insight as to what your relationship with him is.
Thank you, beloved, and also listeners. I have working relationship with Bushiri. It was only when Bushiri had a problem after the death of the people at the Tshwane Recreation Center. I was approached to speak to Bushiri to join our organization, and I was involved with a civic organization for mediation together with the CRL, and then that's how my involvement came in. And he had a case on last year prior to the elections. So far, that was all about it. We gave him the membership to join us so that he can be part of our organization, but he has not joined the organization. But we had a relationship to speak with him as a minister. We are trying to correct certain things that was happening in the church, and that was all the relationship. That was all. He was not my friend. He was not a member of my organization, but we had a discussion relating to the church principles, and also prior to the discussion with the peer review, religious peer review with the CRL and Parliament Copter, we are also inviting him to be part of it so that he should not be left behind, where we were correcting churches that are involving in some other illegal activities. But that's all that I can say on behalf of the independent churches. That now we will support all the churches that are preaching gospel truth, and we will not support any other church that involved in activities, in the criminal activities. Neither even the pastor. We will not support them, because we are at the place of hope and peace for the nations.
Let me bring you in here, Bishop Govender. I mean, we're hearing from the Archbishop here that their organization reached out to Prophet Bushiri when he had other cases and wanted to, quote unquote, bring him into the fold. And I guess that leads to my next question to you. What role does church leadership have in holding other church leaders accountable?
Yeah, I think, thank you for your question. It's an important question. In 2016, 17 and 18, we had a parliamentary dialogue regarding accountability on church leaders. Now, during those 3 years of dialogue with the Parliament and the Portfolio Committee, and I think you're well aware of some of the pastors were doing things that were not ethical and not biblical, like substance abuse, praying doom, raising the dead, all of those things. And the government was very much concerned at that time. Now, the government was wanting to regulate churches. Now, that was our reason. We gave in our papers and we prepared documentation stating that the powers of the state and the powers of the church must be separate. And during those years of dialogue, the state president last year stated that the churches must self-regulate. Now, the question you asked is, self-regulate who and what? Now, an independent pastor cannot regulate himself. Now, you must have an umbrella body. You must have a code of conduct. And the South African Religious Forum, which is an interfaith organization that represents all provinces, represents all faiths. Now, we have come to the platform stating that the religious sector, especially the church, you cannot operate as an independent church. There must be some form of accountability. And that is why the state president mentioned that if we, as the church, must self-regulate, we need to bring our house in order.
And perhaps, Bishop Govender, let me bring the Archbishop in here. The Bishop talked about independent churches and the fact that they can't self-regulate. And that's the position that you found yourself in when you tried to approach Prophet Bushiri, who is an independent church. Is that my assumption? Is he an independent church, or is there a pre-existing body that he belongs to, which perhaps may not even be of South African origin, but maybe continental or maybe even international? Are you aware of such?
My view on that, if you are a South African citizen, we shouldn't be obliged to register with the international organization. Let the laws of the land of South Africa prevail. And especially when we are South Africans, there is no one above the law. And therefore I'm saying, as independent pastors, you can't regulate. If I'm a pastor, I can't regulate myself. There must be some form of code of conduct, and there must be some form of an umbrella body where you become accountable to.
Sorry, Archbishop Shole, I'm going to bring you in here, and unfortunately I'm really trying to race through this because of time. But Archbishop Shole, how do Christians, how do religious congregants safeguard themselves from churches or pastors where they may be taken advantage of, if that's the case? We've seen, not just with Prophet Bushiri, but there have been several other pastors that have been and made the headlines for all the wrong reasons, allegations of rape, money laundering, taking advantage of their congregants. How do parishioners safeguard themselves from such?
Well, thank you. I've been listening to the Bishop. I think he's correct. The churches have to, worshiping centers have to come together to form a peer review, a religious peer review committee, where the members, they will sign a code of conduct. That will be a guideline for how the minister will function his ministry. If you operate outside the doctrines, then they will discipline him. And if you operate outside the code of conduct, then they will hand it over to the police, and then the law enforcement will take its course. We happen to know that we experience human trafficking, we experience human rights and gender violence against women and children. Those are the crimes that follow within the existing laws. But we can be effective if we come together as a peer review. Right now, in some other churches who are independent, they are not affiliated to the federation councils.
Archbishop, let me bring Bishop Govender here. The Archbishop brought up a really good point, and he made reference to the gender-based violence. You know that there's an organization, Not in My Name, where a group of men have come together and have said, men will not be called trash in our name, men will not be, be perpetrators of gender-based violence in my name. Why is it that there's such silence from the churches? Do you have to wait for somebody who calls themselves a pastor and is known as a leader in the church to become a member of your organization before you feel that you can hold them to account? Is the fact that they call themselves a religious leader under your religious beliefs, is that not enough for you to be able to hold them accountable and to have set standards and measures that are biblical to oversee the way that they run their churches?
Well, the South African Religious Forum is championing at the moment, we curbing gender-based violence. Most of our pastors throughout all the provinces, we are working on the ground. When we say that the South African Religious Forum is working on the ground, not necessarily that we are on media, but believe me that we are on the ground. We are providing counseling, we are providing prayers, we are providing shelters for them. And we as the South African Religious Forum, we're very much involved regarding the gender-based violence.
I think, Bishop Govender, before I let you go, just in 1 second, my question was, even though a prophet like Prophet Bushiri or any other pastor may not necessarily be part of your group, the mere fact that they call themselves a Christian leader, does that not give Christian leaders the right to be able to comment if they feel that the religion is being misrepresented?
Yeah, let me bring some clarity on this. You see, if a pastor, let's say a Christian pastor, does wrong, that pastor, by law, should face the full might of the law, not the church. If a driver driving a car, you don't punish the car or you don't pass judgment on the car, you pass judgment on the driver. So let it be as a pastor. And I must make this comment very strongly. 99% of the pastors, the religious leaders, are doing good in society. There are very, very few, my dear, there are very, very few pastors that you can count them that are doing wrong. And this is destroying society. This is destroying our community. Therefore, I've spoken to the National Minister of Police, the Commissioner of Police, and we are putting programs in place where the law should take its place pertaining to pastors.
And we'll leave it at that for this afternoon. I thank you so much, bishops, for your time as well as your insight today. The bishops there saying that the law should take its course when there is a wrongdoing on any part, whether it's a pastor who belongs to an organization or not.